Hey guys, this is Steve Stevens here, and I'm here with Premier Guitars Big 5. So what is my favorite guitar? It's actually this right here. This is my Nag's signature model. This is the SSC, which is the Steve Stevens Custom. And I have a number of these. These have gone through modifications over the years, but being that I primarily work in my home studio, as you can see here, this guitar is fitted with an Evertune bridge. And what that means is I don't have to check tuning. The majority of my time I'm working with other writers and obviously Billy Idol and other people. And the last thing I want to have to do is when you're writing a song is, oh shit, I gotta check the guitar and see if it's in tune. This guitar literally, it can stay, for months at a time without me having to check the tuning. And it's also great. I find that singers really, really like tracking to tracks with this guitar because it stays perfectly in tune everywhere. It's no matter what your string gauge is or anything. So it's one thing I don't have to worry about, and obviously this guitar was designed around my specs and everything that I wanted in a single cut style guitar. So this is my favorite guitar at the moment. So the bare knuckles that are in this are a Rebel Yell, which is my signature model. They've been altered a little bit for this model, a little bit less output in the bridge position. You get that aggressive rock and roll percussive thing. But in the middle section, to me, the best middle section, two pickup combined single cut style is, I love that Jimmy Page sound, that kind of. It's almost rockabilly, and to get that from, I don't have to change anything. There's no knob change, there's no settings or anything. I can just go to the middle section from that. And I get that kind of, classic rock and roll thing, almost rockabilly, as I said. And then switching to the neck pickup, obviously. So that's just by winding down the tone control. So it's really versatile. No coil taps, none of that. I can't remember to do that stuff, So what is my Desert Island album? Well, hopefully I won't ever have to be on a desert island. The record, it seems like I never get tired of listening to, and I keep going back to As Close to the Edge by Yes. It was such a important record for me as a budding guitar player. I'm a huge Steve Howe fan, and Steve was the first guitar player that I heard that I was able to utilize all of the styles that I had accumulated before getting an electric guitar, being a bit of classical, flamenco, a bit of jazz, all of these things that, when I'd listened to some of the other rock bands, I was like, oh, well, that's cool that I learned that stuff, but I can't really apply it to being in a rock band. Well, when I heard Steve Howe, I was like, well, he's using all these different things stylistically. And I think for Yes, the classic era, Close to the Edge is the pinnacle of it. I love Bill Bruford, and I love, that rhythm section of Chris Squire and Bill Bruford. And it's just, they nailed it on that record. And I still listen to it. And I go, how the hell did they make this, before the advent of editing and all this? And I was lucky enough to actually one day sit with the multi-track. Some friends of mine had a company called Jam It, and they were transferring back catalog to this app. And I got a call, and he said, "Hey, I've got Close to the Edge here on the multi-track. Do you want to come and play with it?" I said, "Absolutely." So it was, it was obvious that they recorded things in sections and edited them together, and they would get 16 or 32 bars, absolutely perfect, move on. And so it was kind of like they were using a DAW, or they were using the tape machine as a DAW, doing edits and things like that. But I love the adventureness of it. I think it's the pinnacle of progressive rock. After then, it was time for a change, and obviously, new wave and punk rock kind of came along, and it was time. But I still love Close to the Edge. What is my biggest guitar culture pet peeve? Okay, guitar is not a competitive instrument. It's not, you don't hold up scorecards after solos and things like that. And guitar, ultimately, the end result for any guitarist should be to find your own unique style and your own unique way of doing things. And whether that's, 3 or 4 chords a la Johnny Thunders of the New York Dolls, or Yngwie Malmsteen or Holsworth, or find your own identifiable, unique thing. And I find, with guitar, it's because it is a physical, a skill-based art form, people tend to compare things. Whereas if you look at artists, I've never seen Monet compared to Picasso, compared to Rembrandt. It's each artist is taken on their merits. So that's my pet peeve, is that sometimes people will go, "Oh, well, he's okay, but I really like this guy better." Well, that's fine. And I had so many guitar influences. I mean, I continue to be astounded by guitarists like Guthrie Govan or something. I'm a fan of the instrument, and I have so many. I've had a long career, so I have so many friends who are guitar players, Steve Lukather, or people who are technically brilliant, who can play anything. And I don't think we've ever talked about, well, how come you can do that? And when we jam, we're just like proud of each other for what we've achieved. And I find that most of the guitar players that are successful aren't competitive with each other that way. But I find on the internet there's a lot of opinions based around technique. What guitar hero that I have would surprise fans of my music? Well, whenever I mention Steve Howe as being the seminal guy that clicked for me, I mean, people don't hear it. And that's, I don't hear Steve Howe in my playing. I hear the approach. And one of the things that I loved about Steve was his technique of using different guitars and different styles, not just for each song, but within the song. If you take Roundabout, okay, there's a classical guitar opening, there's electric guitar in it, there's some steel guitar. His thing was to orchestrate, look at the song and orchestrate it. And to a certain extent, I'd say Jimmy Page took that approach too. That was something that I wanted to do, as opposed to being like, obviously Clapton was a very famous guitar player for me growing up, but I didn't want to just play one guitar sound. That wasn't my goal, I wanted to paint colors within the song, and I think that's something that has stuck with me. So Steve Howe would be one. Robert Fripp. I was really fortunate to get my first electric guitar just around the time of the early English progressive rock guys. So they kind of opened my eyes up to a technique, and also how to create something bigger than just putting the guitar on a track. What is My Secret Weapon by Steve Stevens? Well, I mean, that could be taken two ways. Why, a secret weapon to me is, why do I still have a freaking career after, 38 years or whatever? That secret weapon is my absolute love of collaborating. I love being in rehearsal with a band. I love creating with people and coming up with something. It's like building a house, really. You know, be awfully lonely just, all right, I'm going to do the foundation. Now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this thing. It's great to have a team, and I love that collaboration. As I said, it's like building a house. Or I look at what I do a lot like a film director or something. But if it was a technical secret weapon, I would say it was my right hand, because very early on I had a guitar teacher who I must have been about 13 or 14, and he was a jazz guitar player, and he studied under Chuck Wayne, who was a jazz guitar player, and he instilled in me the idea that don't rely on hammer-ons, use alternate picking, and that's served me well in my rhythm playing. I'm pretty aggressive, picker, but the other thing is the alternate picking. I'm a big proponent of alternate picking, and I believe that number one, it enables you not to have such a distorted sound, because you're not relying on legato style. So it really lends itself to the attack. And I think, with Billy Idol's punk rock background, that really was, if you think of the Sex Pistols, it's all kind of, Sex Pistols guitar to me is like, came from Communication Breakdown, and they kind of took it into that next realm. But that attack for my rhythm playing and also the alternate picking stuff. I always tell guitar players, really, really, really learn alternate picking. There are some guys now that are just astounding with picking technique. In the 80s, it was few and far between. You had to look at guys like Dimiola, McLaughlin. But now I think the player, I love when I hear a player who's got that alternate picking, Zakk Wylde. I just go, man, that's so great, So that's my secret weapon.
When the shadows are growing, you're talking straight, but your colors are showing. Burn me, try to hurt me, try to get me when my